September 12, 1958, 11:47 p.m. Big Sam's hand trembled as he clenched the pistol grip. $50,000. That was the bounty the 5 families placed on Bumpy Johnson's life. And Sam, Bumpy's bodyguard for 5 years, the man Bumpy called brother, had accepted the job. The plan was straightforward. Enter Lennox's lounge, wait for Bumpy to be distracted. One shot to the back of his head, vanish into the night. Sam stepped inside. Bumpy sat at his table, back turned, exposed. Sam drew his gun, took aim, squeezed the trigger. Click. Silence. Nothing. Bumpy slowly turned, locked eyes with Sam, and spoke 5 words that would echo through history. "I've been counting on you." What nobody knew, what history books won't mention, is that Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 3 weeks, and what he did during those 3 weeks didn't just save his life, it rewrote the rules of power in Harlem forever. To grasp that night at Lennox Lounge, you must understand who Bumpy Johnson was in 1958. He wasn't just a gangster, he was Harlem's shield, the man who stood between his people and predators eager to consume them. By the late 50s, Harlem was under attack. The Italian mob, the 5 families, had been attempting to dominate the neighborhood's numbers racket for years. Numbers was big money, poor folks betting nickels and dimes that accumulated to millions, and the Italians wanted it all. But there was a roadblock. His name was Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy had established something the Italians couldn't grasp. He didn't rule solely through fear, he ruled through respect. When families in Harlem couldn't pay rent, Bumpy covered it. When police harassed black businesses, Bumpy made calls that ended the trouble. When Italian mobsters tried to intrude, Bumpy pushed back relentlessly. The 5 families had tried every tactic. They sent enforcers. Bumpy returned them in ambulances. They attempted negotiations. Bumpy said Harlem wasn't for sale. They tried bribing politicians. Bumpy had stronger ties. By 1958, the families were desperate, and desperate men make perilous choices. Frank Costello, New York's most powerful mob boss, convened a meeting. All 5 families sent delegates. The agenda, the Bumpy Johnson dilemma. We've tried force. We've tried money. We've tried politics, Costello said, his tone cold and flat. Nothing works. This man is untouchable. Then, what do you propose? Asked Carlo Gambino, lighting a cigar. Costello leaned in. We make him touchable. We find the one person he trusts fully, and we turn them. That's when someone mentioned Big Sam. Samuel, or Big Sam Foster, had been with Bumpy since 1953. 6 feet 4 inches, 260 lbs of muscle and loyalty. He'd taken bullets for Bumpy twice. He'd been there when Bumpy's mother passed. He'd stood by Bumpy through Dutch Schultz's old crew conflicts, police raids, through everything. If anyone could get close enough to kill Bumpy Johnson, it was Big Sam. The family sent Tony the collector to approach him. Tony was a specialist. He didn't break bones or smash skulls. He found weaknesses, and every man had one. August 20th, 1958, 3 weeks before the shooting, Big Sam was leaving his 132nd Street apartment when a black Cadillac pulled up. The window lowered. Tony Morone sat in the back, grinning like a salesman. Sam, right, Big Sam? I've heard a lot about you. Sam's hand went to his waistband where his .45 rested. Who's asking? A friend? Someone who wants to make you very rich. Tony gestured to the empty seat. 5 minutes. Hear me out. Don't like it? You walk away. No hard feelings. Sam should have walked away, but curiosity is dangerous. He got in. Tony wasted no time. You're smart, Sam. You know how this works. Loyal to Bumpy, admirable, but loyalty doesn't pay your daughter's medical bills. Sam's jaw clenched tight. His youngest daughter, Kesha, had been battling tuberculosis for 6 months. The treatments cost a fortune. Hospital invoices kept stacking higher. Sam had gone to Bumpy for help, and Bumpy had handed him $2,000. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. Tony snapped open a briefcase. Inside sat clean stacks of $100 bills. $50,000. That's our offer. Enough to clear every hospital charge. Enough to move your family somewhere safe, somewhere fresh, where your daughter can breathe again. For what? Sam asked, though the answer was already clear. One bullet, one instant. You walk into Lennox's lounge on September 12th. Bumpy will be there like every Friday night. You wait until he's distracted. One shot to the back of the head. Fast, clean, then you vanish. We've got a car waiting, new identities for the whole family. By morning, you're in Miami. By next week, you're someone else completely. Sam stared at the cash. $50,000. His daughter's life, his family's future for a single pull of the trigger. And if I say no? Sam asked softly. Tony's grin vanished. Then your daughter dies slowly in that charity ward. Then you keep guarding Bumpy, watching over your shoulder daily, knowing a bullet with your name is coming. Because that's how this life ends, Sam. You know it. I know it. The only choice is whether you die broke or rich. Sam stepped out of the car without a word, but the briefcase stayed behind. Tony had left it on the seat, the money visible, calling to him. That night, Sam didn't sleep. He saw his daughter's face, her strained breathing, the brave smile she forced through pain. He saw the briefcase overflowing with cash, enough to save her, enough to give his family a real future. 3 days later, Sam decided. He dialed the number Tony had given him. I'm in, Sam said, but I want the money up front, half now, half after. Done, Tony answered. Welcome to the winning side. What Big Sam didn't know, what Tony didn't know, was that before Sam ever entered that Cadillac, Bumpy Johnson already knew about the offer. Bumpy Johnson didn't rise to power by trusting people. He ruled by understanding them, knowing every man has a price, every man has a weakness, and every man can be bought or broken. Bumpy had eyes everywhere. Bartenders, shoeshine boys, cab drivers, janitors, people unseen, people the Italian mob ignored. And one of them, a parking attendant named Jerome, saw Tony Marone's Cadillac outside Sam's apartment. He saw Sam get inside. He wrote down the license plate. 2 hours later, Jerome stood in Bumpy's office above Small's Paradise Jazz Club. Tony Marone's car, Jerome said, sliding paper across the desk. Parked outside Big Sam's place this morning. Sam got in, stayed 5 minutes, then left. Bumpy studied the paper, then Jerome. You sure it was Maroni? Positive. I've seen him before. Collects for the Italian joints on the east side. Bumpy stayed silent a long moment, then he opened his drawer, pulled out $500, and handed it to Jerome. You saw nothing. You weren't there. Understand? Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson. After Jerome left, Bumpy sat alone for 2 hours thinking. Sam had been with him 5 years. Good years. Loyal years. They'd survived wars together. Bumpy had trusted him with his life. But now the Italians were whispering in Sam's ear. And Bumpy knew one thing about desperate men. They make terrible decisions. Bumpy could have had Sam killed immediately. One call and Sam would vanish into the East River. That's what most men would do. Remove the threat, keep moving. But Bumpy Johnson wasn't most men. Over the next 3 weeks, Bumpy watched Sam closely. He noticed the tremor in Sam's hands, the fear behind his eyes. He saw a man torn apart by an impossible choice, loyalty versus survival. And Bumpy made his move. He wouldn't kill Sam, he'd educate him. Bumpy called in a favor from a Brooklyn gunsmith, a man named Victor, who'd been altering weapons for Bumpy for 15 years. I need something done, Bumpy said. I need a gun that doesn't fire. Victor frowned. You want a defective gun? No. I want a gun that looks flawless, feels flawless, but when the trigger's pulled, nothing happens. No bullet, no firing pin, just a click. You want a dummy gun? A very believable dummy gun. Can you make it? Victor could. Within 3 days, he delivered a modified .38 special identical to Sam's service weapon. Same weight, same balance, but completely useless. The next step demanded perfect timing. Bumpy had to replace Sam's real gun with the dummy without Sam realizing. That meant entering Sam's apartment while Sam was gone. On September 8th, 4 days before the hit, Bumpy sent Sam on an errand across town. "I need you to collect an envelope from a contact in the Bronx. It's important. Don't come back without it." The trip would keep Sam away at least 3 hours, more than enough time. While Sam was gone, Bumpy and his most trusted lieutenant, Illinois Gordon, entered Sam's apartment. They located Sam's gun inside a shoebox beneath the bed, exactly where Bumpy expected it. They replaced it with Victor's dummy weapon Sam would never notice. Now Bumpy waited. He had to let Sam act. Because if Bumpy confronted Sam beforehand, Sam could deny everything. The Italians would find another traitor, and the cycle would repeat. No, Bumpy needed Sam to pull the trigger. He needed commitment. And in that final betrayal, Bumpy would expose the truth, not only to Sam, but to everyone in that room, to Harlem itself, to the 5 families. The message would be unmistakable. You don't kill Bumpy Johnson, because Bumpy Johnson is always 3 moves ahead. September 12, 1958, 11:47 p.m., Lenox Lounge. The club overflowed that night. 300 people, musicians, hustlers, businessmen, politicians. Friday night in Harlem meant jazz, cognac, and conversations that shaped the neighborhood's destiny. Bumpy sat at his usual corner table with 2 city councilmen discussing a housing project in Sugar Hill. He wore a flawless gray suit, his fedora resting beside an untouched glass of Hennessy. Big Sam arrived at 11:30. He'd been drinking, not drunk, just enough to calm his hands. In his jacket pocket sat the .38 Special, the gun he'd carried for 5 years, the gun he believed would earn him $50,000. Sam took position near the bar, watching, waiting. Bumpy's back was turned, deep in conversation, exposed. At 11:47, Sam moved. He pushed through the crowd, hand inside his jacket, gripping the pistol. No one noticed. Sam was always near Bumpy. He was the bodyguard. His presence was routine, expected. Sam reached the back of Bumpy's chair, 6 feet away, then 4, then 2. He drew the weapon. The bartender saw it first. His eyes widened, but before he could yell, Sam had already aimed at the back of Bumpy's head and pulled the trigger. Click. The sound of metal striking nothing rang through the frozen room. The jazz band stopped mid-note. Conversations died mid-sentence. 300 people stared at Big Sam standing with a useless gun in his trembling hand and Bumpy Johnson sitting calmly, not even flinching. Bumpy took a slow sip of cognac, then gently set the glass down and turned in his chair. He looked at Sam, simply looked, and in that stare was something worse than rage. It was disappointment. "I've been counting on you," Bumpy said softly. Those 5 words hit Sam harder than any bullet, because in that instant, Sam understood. Bumpy had known. He'd known everything. Tony Maroney's approach, the $50,000, the plan, all of it. And instead of killing Sam, instead of dumping him in the river, Bumpy had allowed him to walk into that room and pull the trigger. Allowed him to expose himself before 300 witnesses. Let him ruin his own name, his own honor before the entire community. Sam's gun hit the floor with a clatter. His legs buckled. He dropped to his knees. "I'm sorry, God." "Bumpy, I'm sorry, my daughter." "I know about your daughter," Bumpy cut in. His voice remained calm, yet it filled the silent room. "I've known for 6 months. You think I don't look after my people?" Bumpy reached into his jacket and removed an envelope. He placed it on the table. "Kesha's medical bills. Every one of them. Paid in full this morning. There's also a check inside for $5,000 for your family, for whatever you need." Sam's eyes flooded with tears. "But why didn't you tell me?" "Because I had to know," Bumpy replied. "I needed to see if you chose money over loyalty. If you chose their $50,000 over our brotherhood." He paused. "Now I know." Bumpy rose from his chair. He wasn't tall, 5'10", but in that moment he seemed 10 feet high. "You're leaving Harlem tonight. You'll take your family and disappear. I don't care where, but if I ever see your face again, if I ever hear your name again, there will be no second chance. Do you understand?" Sam nodded, tears pouring down his face. "And Sam," Bumpy's voice dropped lower still, "when the Italians ask what happened here tonight, you tell them exactly what you saw. You tell them Bumpy Johnson knew. You tell them he's always known. You tell them they can't buy loyalty in Harlem. And you tell them if they ever try this again, I won't be this merciful." Sam stood on unsteady legs, picked up his useless gun, and walked out of Lenox Lounge. He left New York that night and never came back. The last anyone heard, he was working construction in Detroit, a broken man carrying the weight of betrayal for the rest of his life. After Sam was gone, Bumpy turned toward the room. 300 people stared in silence. They had just seen the impossible. They'd watched a man attempt to kill Bumpy Johnson, and they'd watched Bumpy turn that attempt into a warning. "Let me make something clear," Bumpy said, his voice reaching every corner. "The Italians think they can buy us. They think they can split us apart. They think they can take Harlem because we're poor, because we're black, because we don't matter." He lifted his cognac glass. "They're wrong. Harlem isn't for sale. It never was. It never will be. And anyone who thinks they can change that, anyone who believes they can walk into my neighborhood and buy my people, they'll learn. What Big Sam learned tonight. We're not the ones who need protection. They are." Bumpy raised his glass. "To Harlem, and to loyalty that can't be bought." 300 glasses rose. "To Harlem." The jazz band resumed playing. Conversations returned. Within minutes it was as if nothing had happened, except everything had changed. News of that night raced through New York's underworld like fire. By morning, every mobster from Boston to Baltimore knew the story. Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 3 weeks. He let it unfold. He forced a traitor to expose himself before 300 witnesses, and he did it without spilling a single drop of blood. The 5 families held an emergency meeting the next day. Frank Costello was furious, not with Bumpy, but with Tony Maroney for failing. Carlo Gambino, however, saw something different. "We can't defeat this man," Gambino said quietly. "We've tried everything. Force failed. Money failed. Turning his own people failed. Every time we move, he's already ahead of us. So what do?" Costello demanded. Gambino lit his cigar. "We leave Harlem alone. We focus on Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx. But Harlem belongs to Bumpy Johnson, and trying to take it will only cost us more money and more men." It was the first time the 5 families ever retreated from a territorial fight, but they had no alternative. Bumpy Johnson proved something that night at Lenox Lounge. He wasn't just a gangster. He was a strategist. A chess player who saw 10 moves ahead. And you don't play chess with a grandmaster unless you're ready to lose. The tale of Big Sam's betrayal became legendary in Harlem. People told it for generations, passed it down to their children, their grandchildren. It became more than just a story. It became a lesson about loyalty, about staying 3 steps ahead, about what true power looks like. Word traveled fast through the underworld. By morning, every mobster from Boston to Baltimore had heard what happened, and the 5 families convened an emergency meeting. Carlo Gambino said something that day no one expected. "We leave Harlem alone. We cannot defeat this man." It was the first time the Italian mob ever backed down without firing a shot. Bumpy Johnson lived another 10 years after that night. He died in 1968. Not by a bullet, but from a heart attack. Ironically, in the same Lenox Lounge where he faced Big Sam. But here's the key. Bumpy proved something that most overlook. The deadliest weapon isn't a gun. It's knowing what comes before your enemy does. It's turning their plan into your triumph. It's playing chess while they're still learning checkers. Big Sam took $50,000 from the mob. He left New York with nothing but shame. And Bumpy, he returned to his corner table, finished his cognac, and remained the king of Harlem. Look, if this story fired you up, do me a favor, hit that like button real quick. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We drop these Bumpy Johnson stories every day, and trust me, the next one is even wilder. Drop a comment and tell me, could Bumpy have handled this differently? Would you have let Sam leave alive? And hey, turn those notifications on, because next week we tell the story of how Bumpy Johnson walked into Louis Luciano's office unarmed and walked out with the deal of the century. You don't want to miss it. Remember, in Harlem, respect wasn't given, it was earned. And Bumpy Johnson earned every single